Why AI is often misunderstood that doctors will be replaced, teachers will be replaced. No, no one will be replaced. The burden tasks are being reduced. The only task is that. For example, if you ask me what is the case study of the Yashoda hospital or any other hospitals, I would say that the problem statement first, then AI next. I don't get which kind of a solution will I do. Let me get into the problem statement. Artificial intelligence can only get involved when the doctor, patient, and the software engineer travel together. It's more or less like he might not do an MBBS, but he need to know the terminologies in terms of how to adapt it. Now, these are the spends actually. Trust me, what is the biggest spend which have been happening is not just in the treatment, but how do you handle the documents? Documentation burden is like around a burn-out completely. If you actually check for a day, in normal hospital, you can actually see a bunch of files available. What if I can make a software on top of it? At least I can save some of the trees. No, we are not yet fully digitalized, but we can make that happen. This is a very simple architecture level of understanding. I don't want to get into the deeper of RAG and all. But what it takes in a layman terms is that it takes the data, makes sure that the large language models are being trained with the RAG, and make sure that the agents interact with the data which you have, and the clinical feedback is being looped up either in a software or in a report or any other things. So that, for example, if you go to some other hospital in India and next to the Singapore or other areas, this report will be the first information report. If this first information report is being justified, then at least the productivity will be increased in terms of the hospitals, and also the patients will get a confidence that I am getting the results considering the data points, not just a generalized assumption. For example, take an example that all smokers need not get a cancer. Agree? Same as, for example, someone who might get a cancer without any habit as well. Now, how do we predict it? There can be multiple reasons, multiple n number of reasons. But an assumption will create a fear in the patient. And or secure, he might do a lot of things. For example, I should walk like around say 10,000 steps a day. I don't aim to walk 10,000 steps a day. When I feel that I need to walk, then I'll walk. For example, if I am sleeping at morning 4 a.m. and waking up around at 6 a.m. and go for a gym, definitely at some point my heart will stuck. So your body needs an understanding. The system also needs a deeper understanding. That is how we actually train the data. This is the aim. See, 15% is the smallest percentage yet, but achievable when we actually build in the practices. At least for the hospitals which has a decent infrastructure, which we can invest. These kind of a software-based mechanism, which my company right now doing is it, which can enable you to make it faster and make decisions happen after we build up in a time, and it will be like around, say, if ChatGPT can respond in 0.009 seconds, I don't want to claim to match that criteria, but at least within 15 seconds you can get it. And 30% of the regular work. Now, the biggest challenge is not about the doctor, patient and other things as well. The digital twin is all about how you actually tweak the hours. The number of hours is not just a burden for everyone, it's a headache. For example, a report where the patient is waiting at 6 p.m. Out of curiosity, if he calls at 6 p.m., imagine the tension of the reception. And at some point, if no one is responding, the other tensions comes into the picture. So can we give a threshold time that, okay, 6 to 6:30 or 6:30 to 7? No, there is no dedicated TAT time which is yet given. There are assumptions over here. Here we don't want to get into assumptions. We want to get into the facts. All reminders, that's what I'm trying to say. And freeing up the entire burden on how to see the record and what exactly you're trying to do is not so easy task. For example, a doctors and the doctor ecosystem has to get trained in the AI, which means that you should be adaptable for that situation as well. Unless and until you cannot actually get into the point. Yes, these are all points which I have been discussing clearly. Bias-based report is the one where we don't need it. zero trust security, these are like complete risk. As we are other doctors speaking, we need to get into these guidelines completely. Are we into these guidelines? Yes or no is the question mark, depending on the governance. You cannot use our data freely, but how many people are using it for freely? What are the guidelines which have been set? What are the parameters on which you can actually predict my future disease? Digital twin is not about the documenting only. It's about, for example, say right now at this stage, if I have some issue in my health, it should be able to predict that what can be the future occurrences, considering the doctor's opinion, but not the social media opinions. Again, this also clears the nuisances. No nuisance at all.